Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Shout out to all the veterans and current active duty military on Memorial Day here. It was pretty rainy here. I don't know what it was like in your area, but here in Florida, where I'm at, it was nasty. Terrible day. But anyway, so all the Memorial Day barbecues probably got canceled today. So I wanted to come over with my top 15 favorite uncommons. I did the top 15 favorite commons in Ikoria. Now I want to do my favorite uncommons in Ikoria. 15 or so, you know. I'm terrible at narrowing things down. That's why it takes me so long to build a sealed deck. I'm like, I'll get like 50 cards or 52 cards and be like, how do I make 40 out of this? I don't want to throw anything out. So, anyways, I do have one honorable mention here. I did want to kind of give the crystals, I just pulled out one. I want to give the crystals as overall an honorable mention. I think they're not bad. I like these a lot better than I like the triumphs because these don't come into play tapped. These are actual good ramp. They're a little pricey at 3, but you do get 3 different colors to choose from with no downsides. And they do have cycling for 2, which if the triumphs had cycling for 2, I'd like them a little bit better. Cycling for 1 would make them awesome, but still, they come into play tapped with no way to put them into play untapped. I was really hoping, I knew they were going to do a triple land in this triple land cycle in Ikoria. I called it way ahead of time, but I was hoping that they were going to be shocklands. I was really hoping they'd be pay 3 life to put it into play untapped. That would have made them incredible. But yeah, they come into play tapped, and there's no way to put them into play untapped unless you got other cards. Anyways, so I wanted to give an honorable mention to the crystals. I think those might actually see some play later on. I think people might start using those for ramp a little bit later because, you know, late game when you don't need the ramp, you can cycle them and get a card draw out of it. So, I don't know. I wanted to give those kind of an honorable mention. All right, number 15. Number 15 is actually the Bonders. I kind of like the Bonders. I think they're a pretty cool concept. I picked out my 2 favorite ones. The Sonorous Howl Bonder and the Alert Heat Bonder. The Heat Bonder I drafted in my last draft on Arena, and it actually came in really handy. I actually think I got 2 of them. Vigilance, I'm always a big fan of. It's only 3 in hybrid white and green for a 2/4 with Vigilance, which is not bad. Bang for the buck, but then at the beginning of your end step, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with Vigilance. So, I mean, even while he's got Summoning Sickness, you still gain a life off of him when you put him into play, pretty much. And then, you know, every round after that, you get another life for each one that's got Vigilance. And if you got the Mentor out or whatever, is it the Mentors they're calling them? I forget what they're calling the ones that when it comes into play, put a Vigilance counter on another creature and then give +1/+1 to every creature with Vigilance, those guys. And Menace, so there's 1 per Menace, there's 1 for each of the abilities. Those work really good with these, actually, too. So, I thought these are a pretty cool idea, the Bonders here. The Howl Bonder is Menace. Each creature you control with Menace can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. That's won me some sealed drafts. I've drafted this guy a couple times, and he's coming really handy because, I mean, you know, if you run red and black, you got plenty of removal for other creatures. So you're taking out their creatures, make sure they have 2 or less at all times, and all your creatures can't be blocked. So, so I think they did a pretty good job with the Bonders. So they're my number 15 pick here. Not really any specific order on these, just kind of the top kind of cards I like in the set. 14 is Swallow Hole. This one's got a downside in the fact that you can only exile a target tapped creature, but it's got so much upside. You do have to tap 1 of your creatures to cast as an additional cost, but for 1 white, that's still a good deal. And with white, you usually have a bunch of weenies you can tap, little 1/1s you can tap, or 0/1s or whatever. You can actually tap, and it doesn't really cost you too much. But then you get to put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that you tap, so another upside. So I think this card's got a lot of upside and not a whole lot of downside, except for that you have to wait for him to tap a creature. And that is a sorcery. If it was an instant, it'd be much, much better, because as soon as they tapped him to attack, you could take it out and pump up 1 of your creatures. But, so the sorcery speed is the downside, and the fact that it only targets a tapped creature, but it does exile, and it's any creature of any power for 1 mana. And you get a +1/+1 counter on your card. So, I think this one might actually see some play for quite a while. once people start getting the hang of this card, I drafted a couple the other night, and it was very effective. So I really like the Swallow Hole. I think it's probably one of the most underestimated cards in the set so far. I don't really see anybody stacking it, but it's a pretty effective card. All right, number 13, Primal Empathy. I like this one a lot because I do have a Simic counter deck that I still need to fix my audio so I can share that with you guys. But this card is pretty cool. It's only a 3-drop, and at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. I really like this. I've been running Simic Ascendancy in my Simic counter deck so I could add a 1/1 counter to creatures. Just keep adding up those counters. And I'm thinking I might take that out and try putting this in instead, because the one thing you come across when you're running, you know, big, massive, heavy counter creatures like that is that you pretty much use all your mana every turn just to cast the biggest creature you can get, because most of my creatures are X spells in there. So I don't have the extra 3 left over a lot of time to put the counter on with the Simic Ascendancy, and I'm not too worried about the alternate win condition with the Simic Ascendancy, although it has won me a few games, but I think it's kind of a cheesy win with that one. I prefer to win a little more creatively. So I'm thinking about putting some of these in place of the Simic Ascendancies, because I get the 1/1 counter every turn, or I get to draw a card every turn. So, which most of the time I'm going to be drawing a card, because I do have a lot of big creatures in there, and little creatures get big really fast in that deck. But even still, most of the decks that I end up getting matched up against on Arena are the Johnny's Pride Mate decks, the life gain decks, and they end up, sometimes they got a bigger Pride Mate than I have my counter creatures. So sometimes this actually would help out and put a +1/+1 counter on my creatures. So plus it's really good for early game when I'm building up mana and I've just got a couple of small the flyers, the little blue-green flyer that adds a +1/+1 counter on a creature when it comes into play. Yeah, I usually just have a couple of those early game, 1 or 2 of those, so this would help pump them up early game. So help me stay afloat a little bit longer. So I really like the Primal Empathy. I think that might actually see a little bit of play in the Simic decks. All right, next up is Grim Dancer. This guy is so much fun. He's a 2 black and 1 colorless, 3/3. When he comes into play, you get to choose 2 counters among Menace, Death Touch, and Lifelink. So you can have a Lifelink Death Touch or Death Touch Menace that takes out 2 creatures. I mean, Menace Lifelink if you need more life. Yeah, I mean, that's just an awesome card with so much flexibility for the game. I really like him. If he'd have been flying, he'd be in every black deck I ever built for the rest of the time, probably. But he's an awesome card for the value. 3-drop for 3/3 that if you run a mono black gives you 2 black pips, which is nice. But you get to choose between Menace, Death Touch, and Lifelink, 2 of the 3. That's amazing. So great card there. Great bang for the buck. Next up is Zenith Layer, of course. If you're running a cycling deck, this is a must-have in your cycling deck. Deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is the number of cards with a cycling ability in your graveyard. So if you run a cycling deck, by the time you get to turn 4, when you can cast this, you've probably got a few cycling cards in there, at least. And so the cool thing is that it's any target. So you can hit the opponent right to face, and you gain X life, or you can kill one of their creatures and gain X life off of it. So pretty awesome. You can even overkill a creature that's a problem, and you still gain all the life from all the cards with cycling in your graveyard. So Zenith Layer I've seen used very, very effectively in the cycling decks. Pretty cool card. Little pricey. I wish it had been 1 white, 1 red, and 1 colorless, but still it's pretty effective. And the extra casting cost technically makes you wait a little bit longer, and that way it's a little bit more effective if you want to look at it that way. But not bad. It didn't make it really high because it only works in the cycling decks, though. Bastion Remembrances next. Pretty cool card. It gives you a 1/1 white human soldier token when it comes into play. It's only 3, and whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Cool enchantment, especially for black. And the fact that it creates a token to die to give a chump blocker and then the 1 life and gain a life when it comes into play is pretty cool. I see this a lot in the sacrifice decks. I haven't seen it a lot yet, but I guarantee we're going to see it a lot in the sacrifice decks. Because obviously every time they sack a creature is gonna do damage and give you life. So it's a pretty cool card. I think it's gonna see a lot of play in standard here coming up soon. So I think the sacrifice decks, which are getting to be pretty popular here, are going to be running this. So pretty cool card. I like it. Next up is Will of the All Hunter. I do like options. This one is only a 2 cost, 1 white, 1 colorless. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's blocking, instead you get permanent +1/+1 counters on it, which I love. And it's got cycling, so it works great in the cycling decks. It's only 2, so you can put it in the Luris cycling deck. Really cool card. I love the fact that if you're using it for blocking, you get permanent +1/+1 counters on your creature. I haven't used it for attacking once yet because I'd prefer to get the permanent counters on the creature by using it as a surprise for the block, and it is instant, which is good. So I like this card. I love the fact that you do have the cycling ability. If it's something that's not going to help you at the time, you can cycle it out and get something you are going to use. But I think bang for the buck, it's amazing. I mean, 2 white, but 2 permanent 1/1 counters on a creature and take out one of their creatures by blocking with it. Awesome. Awesome card. I do like that one. Next up is Sprite Dragon. This guy's pretty cool. I think this is also, this is the perfect pet too, right? I think is the alternate card for it. But 2-drop, Flying Haste 1/1, but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon. Doesn't seem that appetizing, except for the fact that the 2 colors it's in are red and blue. You're going to be casting a lot of non-creature spells in red and blue, so this guy gets pumped up pretty quick. And the fact that he's got haste, I mean, a Flying Haste 1/1 for 2 is not bad to begin with. But then he gets permanent +1/+1 counters every time he casts a non-creature spell. He gets unruly pretty fast in a red and blue deck. So, great card, great addition to red and blue. I really like him. Alright, I think we're down to, this is 9 or 8 or, I don't know, somewhere around there. Reptilian Reflection. This guy is awesome for cycle decks. I've drafted it a few times and it was so effective. I've won a lot of games with this card in draft because for 3 mana, every time you cycle a card, you get a 5/4 creature with trample and haste until end of turn. So, pretty awesome. And they can't use creature removal on their turn to kill your creature because it's an enchantment on their turn. So, pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, a 5/4 trample with haste for 3 mana is awesome to begin with, but then it does that every time you cycle a card, and in a cycling deck, you're doing that probably every turn. So, pretty cool card. I have a lot of fun with this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. The only downside is that it won't fit in the Luris cycling deck, but it will fit in any cycling deck that doesn't have Luris as their companion. So, which is, you know, the majority of them don't tend to use Luris. I just built mine around Luris because I like Luris, and it's a shame that he got banned already. 2 days after release, the poor guy gets banned. 3 days? 3 days. Yeah, pathetic. Alright, so number 10, Flourishing Fox. Yay. This little guy's a beast in the cycling decks. 1-drop, 1/1. Whenever you cycle another card, put a 1/1 counter on him. Permanent 1/1. He gets big quick in a cycling deck, and he's your... Pretty much you want him in your opening hand in a cycling deck. And if you get a couple of them, he does have cycling for 1, so you can actually cycle him out to pump another one up. So I usually cast all these. I rarely cycle these. I only cycle them if I need it for the last point of damage there, you know. So, but this guy is awesome for the cycling decks. He's definitely a must-have 4 of in your cycling deck. Great card. Great idea. Fun little guy, and he gets big quick. All right, so number 5. Number 5 is actually multiple cards. There's a lot of really good removal spells in this set that I think are pretty creative, and I picked my 4 favorite ones. I love the flame spell because that's one of the biggest problems with the red damage spells is that, you know, you use a 3 or 4 drop damage spell to take out a 1/1 and you feel like you just didn't get your money's worth out of it, you know. But this guy, you can take out that 1/1 and it deals the excess 3 damage to the controller, to the opponent, which is awesome. I think this is really cool because you can take out a creature and still get all your money's worth out of the spell by dealing the excess damage. It's basically a burn spell with trample, which is pretty cool. The other one, Easy Prey. I like Easy Prey because it's I think it's the perfect card as far as removal because it works early game. It's really cheap, 1 black and 1 colorless to destroy target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less. So you get rid of an early problem, or if it's later game and all their creatures are too big, you've got the cycling so you can try and draw into a bigger damage spell to remove the bigger creatures, or a bigger creature of your own to compete. So I do like the cycling ability on the Easy Prey. You know, 3 or less would have been a little bit better, but you know, hey, you can't argue. 2 mana to kill a 2 or less creature that could be causing a problem, and it's got cycling for 2. So I think that was pretty good, especially for sealed. That's a really good card. We'll do Heartless Act last. Dire Tactics, bang for the buck. You can't beat it. 1 white, 1 black, exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. But I mean, it takes out any threat. Exile target creature. Anything. Doesn't matter what color it is. Doesn't matter how big or how small it is. Doesn't matter. Exiles it. So, great removal spell. So cheap. Really good. It's hard to find 2-drop removal spells that'll take out anything. Yeah, you do lose life if you don't have a human, but if you're running black and white, odds are you might have a human on the board when you cast it. So, I think that's a really good option. Heartless Act. Amazing card. I just hate the artwork. I like cats, and they're killing a cat, and I guess the story behind it is that cat saved the daughter of General Kudrow, but he had the cat sentenced to death anyways. I don't know. I don't read the books, but that's what I heard. So it's just a brutal artwork on there, and it's just, you know, poor kitty's screaming for his life, about to get his head chopped off. It's just, I don't like the artwork at all. But the card itself, for 2 mana, you can either destroy a target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. Great card. Great removal spell. I love the option of being able to remove counters if it is a creature with counters on it, or kill it if it doesn't have counters on it. Really versatile card. I just hate the artwork and the concept. But those are, I think, probably the 4 best removal cards in the uncommon slot in this set. There's so many good removal cards in the uncommon slot. I actually narrowed it down to 4 from, God, there's probably 6 or 8 really good ones. Anyways, number 4 is a big stack. Number 4 is really the whole mechanic. The whole series of uncommon mutate cards is just amazing. So I picked out kind of my 8 favorites, just to kind of go over the mutate mechanic, and I mean, just, it's so good. Now, it does have limitations, because you got to pretty much pile up on 1 creature if you really want the mutate to be effective. And there's always the chance that they could remove that 1 creature, and then you're kind of hosed. But there's so many really good mutate cards. Now, this one, the Trumpeting Gnar, I always recommend hard cast this and then mutate onto it. Don't use its mutate cost, because its mutate cost is 5. That's ridiculous. But for 1 of each Simic and 1 colorless, whenever it mutates, you create a 3/3 green beast creature token that does not work for green peace. So he basically clones himself for the most part every time you mutate onto him. He gives another 3/3 beast out there. So really effective. I've seen people get really wide boards with this thing. Of course, the Starix is, you know, undeniable how good that card is. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated. Put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. Again, you probably want to hard cast him because it's 1 mana cheaper. It's 1 better. He's only 5 to hard cast for a 6/6, which is good bang for the buck to begin with. But every time you mutate onto him, you put in a permanent for each time he's mutated, which is amazing. You know, you mutated on him 3 or 4 times, you're dropping half your deck, I mean, onto the battlefield. That's the great thing about it, is if you put those cards directly on the battlefield. That's an amazing card. Regal Eosaur is really good. Just because he's really inexpensive. He's only a 2-drop 2/2 or 3-drop with hybrid to mutate him. So you can run them in mono white or mono red decks if you're just going to mutate them. Whenever he mutates, other creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. I mean, if you're running a fairly wide board and you mutate this guy down, I mean, that can be the game winner right there. Sweep with everything. Necropanther, one of my favorites. Whenever he mutates, return target creature card with a converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So every time he mutates, he brings another creature back into play, including he could bring himself back because it's 3 or less. So he could bring another Necropanther out of your graveyard back into the battlefield. So really good if you're running cycling decks as well, because you can bring back something that you've cycled into the battlefield too. So he's really handy. Hemophage, probably my favorite mutate because it's very affordable. It's only 1 black and 2 to mutate, and it gives whatever creature you mutate onto with him Death Touch. And whenever this creature mutates, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life where X is the number of times this creature mutates. So it's got a built-in drain life and Death Touch every time you mutate, and the mutate costs only 3. He's only 4 to hardcast a 3/3 with Death Touch, which is still not bad. So I really like him. He's one of my favorites. Huntmaster Liger is a game winner. This is kind of the white, the white equivalent to the Hemophage. This guy for 1 white and 2 colorless. When you mutate, whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of times this creature mutated. So again, just like the Leosaur, this could be the game winner. If you got a bunch of creatures out and you mutate this guy onto something, not only are you pumping something up to a 3/4 because you're probably mutating onto something small if it's only turn 3, but you could swing for the win on turn 3 if you got enough creatures on the board. They all get +1/+1 just from him mutating 1 time. So he's a really, really effective card. Really cool card. And then, of course, the Lower Dracus, if you're running red-blue, this is a really, really handy card because one of the problems that red-blue has is that it's got so many instant spells that are cheap cost that you end up emptying your hand really quick. This guy only mutates for 2 hybrid, and whenever he mutates, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So, I mean, you know, you shock somebody for 2 and then, or shock a creature for 2 and then mutate him, and you get that shock rate back and then cast it again. So he's really, really effective for the red and blue colors that he's in. And 2-drop to turn something into a 2/3 that brings instants or sorceries back. That's amazing. Really good bang for the buck. I think mutate is just amazing mechanic. I think it's a great job. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'm seeing other people have a lot of fun with it. And the other one doesn't actually have mutate, the Zagoth Mamba, but he's a 1-drop in black that whenever you mutate onto him, so first turn you put him out, second turn you mutate something onto him, second or third turn. Whenever he mutates, target creature and opponent control gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So, I mean, if you mutate onto him the second or third turn, you're wiping out 2/2s or 1/1s that are causing you problems on your opponent's side there. So he's got built-in creature removal every time he mutates, and he's a 1-drop, 1/1. What more could you ask for? So I really like him, even though he doesn't have mutate actually as an ability. His mutate ability when you mutate onto him is epic. So, I mean, you know, say, where's our Hemophage? So, you know, you got him out on turn 1, then turn 3, you drop the Hemophage onto him, mutate onto him. Now he's a 3/3 with Death Touch that just did a 1 drain life on your opponent, took 1 life from them, gave you 1 life, and killed one of your opponent's 2/2s. So, I mean, effective. Very, very effective. A lot of bang for the buck there. So, the mutate mechanic basically was my pick for number 4, and those are my favorite 8 mutate cards in the set, in the uncommon slot. Of course, there's even better ones in the rare slot, but we'll get to the rares one of these days. All right, number 3. Now for my favorite uncommons in the whole set. Call of the Death Dweller. I think this is going to be one of those uncommons that's actually going to just keep climbing price as it goes down the road. And I think this is one that's even going to roll into Legacy and Vintage after it cycles out, because for 3 mana, return up to 2 target creature cards with total converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That alone is amazing. You can put out a small creature infinite combo, you know, just instantly, just pow, onto the battlefield. But then you can put a Death Touch counter on either of them and a Menace counter on either of them. So, I mean, not only can you bring back 3 mana's worth of creatures, up to 2 of them anyway, a 2-drop and a 1-drop, or 2 1-drops or whatever, for an awesome combo. But you can also put a Death Touch counter on one and a Menace counter on one, or Death Touch and Menace on one of them. I mean, it's just so much bang for the buck. It's unbelievable. And in black, where you're filling up your graveyard pretty quick anyways, it's just the perfect storm. I see this card getting broken pretty quick. I think somebody's going to come up with a deck that's going to utilize this thing. I mean, this is basically kind of a 1-card Flash Hulk, you know? Not as effective, obviously, as Flash Hulk, but a hell of a lot cheaper, you know? And it's legal in Standard for quite a while now, so I think it's going to be a Standard for a couple of years, right? So, I don't know. I'm not really sure how Standard works these days. I don't know. Ever since they changed the 3-block set and got rid of that, I have no idea what's legal in Standard now. It's so hard to keep up with. Anyways, I think this card's going to stand the test of time. I think this is going to be a sought-after card for many years to come, because I know somebody's going to find a really cool combo with this that's just going to go off like crazy. And I mean, 3rd turn or 2nd turn with a ramp, I mean, that's nuts. So that one I really got a lot of faith in. I think that one might be a card to watch. Number 2, this guy is a beast. I commit suicide with this guy on accident the other night. I totally spaced out and hit him with that red spell that deals 4 damage to target flyer. And I had the game under control until I accidentally did that, and then this guy became like a 5/7, and I was like, oh. So this guy is a 3-drop, 1/3 flyer, which sounds terrible, but if non-combat damage would be dealt to Stormwild Caprador, prevent that damage, put a 1/1 counter on Stormwild Caprador for each 1 damage prevented this way. Yeah. Run this guy in red and white, and as soon as you put him into play, shock him. Shock him or something, you know, do as much damage as you can to him right away, because you can do it yourself. You can shock your own creature, and he'll become a 3/5. Shock him again, he's a 5/7. I mean, it's just, this guy gets out of control quick. I've seen this guy. I've been hit with this guy when he was like a 12-15 or something like that, or 12-14, I guess it would be. Yeah, he's gotten out of control quick. Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of his beatdowns quite a bit here recently. This card is amazing. Yeah, if you're running white, I recommend, especially if you got direct damage in there of any type, I'd run this guy. He's just fun. I mean, the opponent can't get rid of him unless they take him out with a creature, but you do a little bit of damage to him, and they're going to be hard-pressed to find a creature big enough to take him out. So, this guy is a lot of fun. I'm planning to build a deck around him on Arena. I might even build... I want to see if I can build an Artesian deck around him, because I don't have any Artesians yet. Artisans, whatever they call them. The Uncommons and Commons decks. I might see if I can build an effective one of those around him. I think it'll be pretty easy to do, because, I mean, you just need like a bunch of this guy and you know, a couple other win cons and a lot of direct damage, and I mean, you'll be able to remove anything that gets thrown on the board or pump him up. So yeah, this guy's a lot of fun. But my all-time favorite card in the set, in the uncommon block or set, uncommon slot, yes, slot, it's not a block, it's a slot. The uncommon slot, my favorite uncommon in Ikoria, hands down, the Ominous Seas. This thing is a beast. I have won a lot of sealed games with this card, and I put him in my cycling deck as well. I actually added blue just to have this guy in the deck, because this card is so good, especially in a cycling deck, because whenever you draw a card, you put a Foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas. Remove 8 Foreshadow counters from Ominous Seas. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. It's a 2-drop, and it cycles for 2. So if you end up with 2 in your hand, you can use one to actually put a counter on the one that you put into play. So I have gotten the 8/8 pretty quick in my cycling deck with this guy. If I get it out on turn 2, I probably got a Kraken by turn 4 or 5. Sometimes you can even get it a little faster if you got a lot of card draw, or if you get lucky. But yeah, I mean, turn 4 or 5, pretty much I can get an 8/8 out with this thing. It is pretty awesome. So Omniscience is definitely my favorite. I think it's the most underrated uncommon in the set. This guy just, he wins games. I mean, there's not a whole lot your opponents can do against an 8/8 Kraken, you know, early game. So, and with cycling, I mean, you're probably drawing a few cards a turn. So if your cycling deck is built right and you're being effective with it, you're probably drawing a few cards a turn. So this card is unbelievable, especially in sealed and in cycling decks. So I hope you like my picks there. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would have gone with. My top three, I think, are very solid. Let me know what you think of those, or if you think one of the others would be better, or if I missed something. Let me know in the comments. Obviously, I got a little overzealous with the mutate. There's a lot of really good mutate cards in the uncommon slot. And there's a lot of really good removal cards in this set in the uncommon slot. So the uncommon slot in this set is very, very stacked. The Flourishing Fox, I mean, come on. And that Reptilian Reflection. Even the Sprite Dragon's great. I mean, so many good uncommons in this set. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you would have picked as your top 15 or whatever. And we'll start a conversation about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And hopefully you'll check out some other videos while you're here. Oh, do you like the new background? If you didn't see my Channel Fireball Magic Fest crate opening, I finally got some new playmats. I got 4 new playmats. So I'll be actually rotating out the background a little bit now and give a little bit more color in the background, so that Amon Ket back playmat, which I love, but I'm sure you guys are sick of seeing it by now because it has been what, 6 months or 7 months since I started the channel. Been using that playmat. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time, and every like and comment and subscription really means the world to me. So thank you guys so much, and you guys have a great Memorial Day. Bye.